Hello friends! Today's video is not going to be a review or a tag or anything like that. I have the ability and the responsibility to use my voice and my platform, my channel, to speak up and speak out. Black Lives Matter always. Period. Racism didn't suddenly spring up overnight, and it won't disappear or go away with even with the recent arrests of the 4 officers involved in George Floyd's murder. It isn't over, and when the frenzy surrounding this particular case inevitably dies down, systemic racism will still be there, and it will take a lot of conscious effort and continuous support on the part of white people, non-black people like myself, to help dismantle that, to do what we can to help dismantle that. And I just wanted to take the time to share a couple of resources that I've found recently that have helped guide and encourage me as an ally to walk the walk and demonstrate praxis. So the first resource, and I'm going to link all of these down below in the description, is a CARD website, C-A-R-R-D. I'd never heard of this before, but it's super handy. So it's Black Lives Matter CARD. It's kind of where I've been going for. I mean, there's so many links out there and resources for people who are wanting to participate in this and help. This website has links to a bunch of different resources, information on petitions you can sign, where you can donate, resources for protesters, and kind of information on how to protest safely and, you know, the stuff that you should bring and prepare for, information on just how to educate yourself on how to be a good ally and, you know, learn about racism and exactly what it is that Black people are facing. And really, just this website is really great. It's updated very frequently. Even now, I think in the last hour since I'm filming this, it's been updated. Just so much information that you can find on how and where you can help. And it's been a really great resource for me. And in terms of books, since this is BookTube, Goodreads a few days ago, I think, put out an article called An Anti-Racist Reading List, and this list has a bunch of by Black authors, a bunch of nonfiction books all about racism, and how to combat it, and there are memoirs, there are just histories on the topic of race, and again, these are all by Black authors, so that reading list was really cool. And then if you just search, if you're wanting to find a way to support Black authors, if you search just on YouTube, books by Black authors, there are a lot of videos full of good books that you can read by Black authors to support that community. And even, like, in particular, because I'm such a fan of, you know, sci-fi and fantasy, I even looked up, you know, fantasy books by Black authors, and there are videos out there that you can watch to get some recommendations there. And that's something that, me personally, is something that I want to do better at. I've never particularly made a point of searching out Black authors. If I did read a book by a Black author, it was just kind of incidental. It wasn't on purpose, but that's something that I want to actively try and do. So, you know, lists like that Goodreads list, or searching specifically, you know, fantasy books by Black authors, or memoirs by Black authors, that's something that will really help me, again, praxis to actually put action to words there. And while I'm on that subject, I did go ahead, over the last couple days, just with everything going on. I do have a few specific books that I'm going to recommend that I actually haven't read myself, but they're books that I want to read to, again, practice praxis. So those books that really sounded interesting to me and are things that I think that I need to read to be a better ally. The first is How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. And this book, I believe, is sort of, about what an anti-racist society might look like and how we can actively go about building up to that goal. The next book is So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijeoma Oluo, and she explores today's racial landscape and addresses issues like privilege, microaggressions, the Black Lives Matter movement, and just questions that a lot of readers might be afraid to ask related to race. And the third book that kind of caught my eye is a memoir called I'm Still Here, Black Dignity in a World Made for Whiteness by Austin Channing Brown. And this really caught my eye because in the very first paragraph kind of describing this book, she realized when she was 7 years old that her name was Austin because her parents wanted to deceive future employers into thinking that she was a white man to improve her chances of employment. So it's kind of her journey and her experiences navigating racism in America. And not to overlook fiction writings, there are a few books that I really want to read by Black authors. The first is actually very popular, and I haven't read it yet. I'm sure that a lot of you have or are wanting to read this. Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. In this story, the main character lives in a world that used to be full of magic until a king ordered the killing of all magi, all magic users, and I think the main character has to work together with the princess to kind of bring magic back into her world. And the other book, a couple other books, are Slay by Brittany Morris. This is about a 17-year-old girl who is secretly the developer of this kind of popular underground video game, and she a kid is murdered over a dispute related to the game. So the game kind of comes into the mainstream and is labeled as a racist game, a violent place, and criminals and thugs play this game. Kiera, the main character, she has to protect her game, and this was a quote from the blurb of the book, harness what it means to be unapologetically Black in a world intimidated by Blackness. So I'm a huge video gamer, so that just sounds really interesting, so I definitely can't wait to pick that up. And finally, my kind of third little TBR that I want to read by Black authors is Fate of Flames by Sarah Raleigh. So this has been described as sort of like Sailor Moon-esque, and I love Sailor Moon, and it's about this group of kind of magical girls called the Effigies. Each of the four of them can control one of the basic elements, and Maya is the next fire effigy, and so I think she has to kind of learn about her powers, how to handle her powers, and the effigies, the four girls, have to fight against the power of these evil beings called phantoms. So that just sounds so great. Sailor Moon has been just one of my favorite shows forever since I was a kid and has inspired me so much. So that just sounds really, really cool. George Floyd is far from the first. So far from the first. And in all likelihood, won't be the last. Which is so disgusting to have to say, and it's terrifying that this is what's going on in the world, and this is just again, it's the most recent thing. This is not new, and it's terrible, and I'm disgusted but also thrilled to see so many people standing up for justice and what's right, and just standing together to make Black voices heard. And even if you can't make it out to a protest, or even if you can't donate, there are still things that you can do. You can sign petitions, you can be an ally, you can listen, you can speak up if you see instances of racism around you or within your family. So there are things that you can do, that I can do, that we can do to be better. And I want to be better. And I think, again, the resources that I mentioned, I'll link them all below. They've been really helpful, and I'm looking forward to reading the books that I mentioned before. This isn't exactly a TBR for any time frame or anything, but these are just books in particular that have kind of got on my radar, and I'm going to be looking for and putting forth more effort in terms of BookTube to actively look for authors of color, and books with people of color as the main characters, to walk the walk and not just talk the talk. So thank you for watching this video. I hope some of the resources are helpful to you, and I hope you maybe got a book recommendation or two out of it. If you have other books that you recommend to me, please let me know, leave them down below. If there are in particular Black content creators, booktubers that you recommend, please leave them below. I would love to check them out. And just thank you for being here, and Black Lives Matter forever and always. So I will see you guys next time.